class. And here is our level 2. And the teacher is busy. So I'm the substitute teacher. So I'm going to teach you guys Java level 2. So let me first share my screen, and I wanted to review what we have learned. So let me just share the screen. So these are the review questions. So what are the 4 components of a for loop? I know that you guys have at least 2 weeks of break. So you may forgot that, but I really want you guys to brush on your memory and see if you still remember. So what are the 4 components of a for loop? A for loop. So anyone remember anything? Do I get a volunteer? If not, okay, let me ask Hayden, do you remember anything? What are the 4 components? So let's think about it. What is a for loop? What does a for loop do? And if you wanted to do a for loop, then what do you have? What do you have to have in the for loop? Yes, there's a condition you have to have. What else? What are the other 3? Jesse, do you remember anything? So how about you, Owen? The result? The result is not part of the for. Good guess. So I like you guessing it. So Lucas.
The argument.
The first question, what are the 4 components of a for loop?
Argument, condition, the statement, and the body.
Very good. You get it 2 correct. One is the condition, one is the body. And there are 2 other components. Okay, so let me check why I do not get it. Do I get all the students in the class? So Owen, did you give me anything, Owen? Very good, Owen. So initialization, or we can say the initial value. So when you do the loop, so when you started the initial value, what is that? Okay. So once you get these 3, so the initial value, the condition, and the body, and then is the change of the value. Are you going to increase or are you going to decrease? How much you are trying to increase or how much are you trying to decrease? And that is the statement. That's we can think it that way. So that's the 4 components. And then now I wanted to bring you guys more specific on the condition. You see, when you look at the condition, no matter what the expression is, the result will be true or false. Then true and false are the only 2 values for a Boolean variable. So that means that condition actually is a Boolean expression. So why do we need to learn a data type called a Boolean. Boolean only has two values, true or false. So this is the significance it makes for all the conditions. Only when it evaluates to true, it will get into it and execute it. If it's evaluated to false, it will jump out. It will not go into that. So the Boolean value, we can also see a flag. It is used to control the code flow. So the code can go this way, can go that way. How will it go? Depends on the Boolean value, the condition. The condition is evaluated to true or false. So it can decide if you need to execute this block of code or not. So that's why we need a Boolean data type in all programming language. In all programming language, because that's the switch or that's the controller. Okay. All right. So the second question then, so can you tell me the difference between a while loop and a do while loop? So what are the difference? I do not get an, if I do not get a volunteer, then I will call you. Anyone wants to volunteer? If even you say you do not answer it correctly, that's okay. Okay, Karen. Do while loop will always run at least once, while the while loop will run the requested amount. That's exactly correct. Thank you so much, Kaden, for the answer. You are very good on it. So now let's continue. So we are going to learn loop again. Okay. So we learn the for loop. That's the simple for loop. Okay. So now we are we're going to learn a different for loop. We call it a for each loop. What is for each loop? For each loop is used to traverse array or collection in Java. Right? If you learned Python before, Python does not have the Java for loop. It does not have like the initial value, then the condition, then the increase or the decrease, the statement. The Python only has the for each loop, okay? So it is easier to use than the simple for loop because we do not need to increment values and use a subscript notation. You don't have to, okay? So it will traverse through every item in the array or in the collection. So it works on element spaces, not index spaces. So you know when you learn Java, index is very important. You can use the index to get the a collection or array, right? But when you use for each loop, it is element based. You do not have to use index. It returns element one by one in the collection. So every item in that collection or in array, okay, it will be pulled out one by one. But I want you to pay close attention to this one. So let me get a student to read this sentence to me. Okay, Lucas, can you read it aloud?
You cannot change the original content by using this loop by changing the element in the loop.
Okay. So do you guys understand what this sentence means? If you understand it, can you explain it or can you elaborate on it? If you do not, then I can help you. So let me get Jesse. Do you understand this in this sentence? Speak up, Jesse. If you understand it, elaborate on it. Explain in more details. What does this mean in your own words? Okay. All right, Jesse cannot hear me. Did not hear what I said. So let me then ask Kaden. Kaden, do you understand this sentence?
Not really.
Okay. All right. So if you do not get it, I think this is a very abstract. So why? So let me explain to you. When you use for each loop, right? It looks like every time you go into the area or the collection to pull the element out and use it. But actually, what the Java does is it just get a copy. It just get a copy of that element. So whatever you do to this element, you do it on the copy. So the original one in that loop is not changed. It will remain intact. So what does it mean? Let me show you an example. You say this is the format, okay? For each loop. So for each loop, you say in the parentheses, you have two parts. The first part is the element, and this variable var. Of course, you can give it a different name. So this represents the element in the array, and here is the array. Of course, it can be an array list. It can be a collection. It just means you have a bunch of this stuff. So now you are trying to pull them one by one. You want to retrieve them one by one. And you cannot omit the type. You have to tell the system what data type it is in this area. So I give you this example here. You see, I have an integer area. That is this one. This area. And you see, I have 5 values in it. So you see here, for int I. I is a variable name. It's a temporary name here. I put it here so I can use it in this statement. All right. And that's the variable. It represents this one. It refers to this one. So for every integer I in this array, or okay, now you print out that value. Print out that value. So can you guys to try this one? So let me give you this code. Let me give you this code. All right. So want you guys to try in your Eclipse. Let me try. All right, I have a very simple Java class here. So let me use this one. So let me run it. So this does not surprise you at all, right? It's a 12, 23, 44, 56, 78. So you use the for each loop. So you have to have an array or a collection. So then you can loop through it one by one. Okay. So you may think, I wanted to change my arrays value, and I wanted to use a for each loop to do it. So let me show you what we can do. So the first loop, let me do it here. So let me make a copy of it. So the first loop is that I want to just do this. I equal I times 3. So this will change as value to I times 3, right? So every time you come in, you get the I value. First, I will be 12. I will times 3, then it will be 36. And you will think, okay, this value now becomes 36. This one will be 69. And then now I'm used for each loop again. I wanted to print them out. And I expect the first value will be 36. So let me save my code and see what I got. Let me see what I got. I never get a 36 here. I never get it. So that means this for each loop, you cannot use it to change the value of the element itself. When you use it, actually what you get is a copy of it. Whatever you do, you did it on that copy. Once your loop is finished, that copy is thrown into the trash can. Forgot it. You are not kept them. You are not kept them at all. The original value stays intact. It stays intact, right? But let me show you the difference. So that's what this statement mean. Okay, the last sentence mean. That's this one. But let me show you the difference, okay? So let me do this one. Okay, I will say initial I equal to 0, right? And then I less than negative, then I plus plus. So I'm increasing I. All right. So this is the for loop. And I will loop through this area as well. I will loop through this area. But I use index to do it. So now what I'm going to do is that I will use A or equal to A or times 3. So I'm doing a change here. I'm trying to times 3 to the original element. So now let me save the code. You see what happens. Do I got this value? You see that value is changed. The array itself now is changed. But when you use a for each loop, this kind of loop, you cannot And if you are in the high school, you wanted to do AP computer science, you will get tested on this concept. Never ever try to use a for each loop in Java to change the original item value. You cannot. You cannot. Does this make sense? Does it make sense? Okay, only Katina tell me that it makes sense. So any question on it? So Jesse, you get it, you get what it meant.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. So if you get that, I think that's one of the biggest thing in the loop for loop. And when you grew up, you were trying to find a job to do Java coding, and you do the interview, you may be asked on this one as well. Okay. So I'm not going into details on that. You say this is a for loop, while loop, do while loop, how they works, how they work. Okay. So that's a difference there. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. So after you learn this, you guys see the difference between a while loop and a for loop. Anything you can think of, and we can discuss it. So if you know the difference between a for loop and a while loop. Lucas, can you think of anything, the difference?
While loop can run forever.
Yes, a while loop can run forever. And a for loop, usually it will not, unless you do some very, very bad things in your code. And for each loop will never run forever, right? Depends on, just get the items out from the area. So depends on how many items you have, then how many loops you will get into. Very good, Lucas. Wonderful. All right. So I want you to do this exercise. Give you guys 5 minutes. So let me copy these requirements, and I want you to write the code, and I will check your code. So create an array list. Add these names to the array list. Then use the for each loop to print the names out one by one. Simple enough, right? But I'm forcing you guys to write code. Okay, if you are in the club, the Java, the robotic club, and if you wanted to be a programmer in your team, you have to write code, right? So you need to type in the code yourself. So I want you guys to get used to writing your own code. Do this 5 minutes. It's 6:24. If you finished, you can raise your hand or put your code in the chat, or just speak up so I can see your work. I need you guys to get this done by 6:30. 6:30. If nobody showed me that you finished at 6:30, I will just call you randomly, want you to share your screen to me. Of course, you can give me an excuse and you say, oh, my computer broke down, or my Eclipse doesn't work, or I cannot share because the share button doesn't work. But that's not appreciated. If someone is a genius or smart enough, and you can quickly create an array from these names. So if you know how to do that, that will be great. Can you share your screen to me? Lucas,
Okay.
and let me see what problem you run into.
Two here. This one. So when I run it, I get this as my output.
Okay. So can you do this? In the line 12, when you say string, then put in the square brackets after string. Okay, array, can you change the name array? Just say ARR, something like that, okay. And then remove the brackets. Remove the brackets, the square brackets for ARR, okay. And now run it. What?
Or just do like I plus plus.
You don't need it, you don't need it.
Anything else?
Or you need to print I. You need to print out I,
Oh.
not print out array. You know, no, in the line 14, yeah, print out I. Okay. Good job now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So because you print ARRA, that's an object that you just print out the object name. Good. So how about the rest of the class? You have 1 more minute. Yeah, you're doing good, Trisha. It should work. How about you, Jesse? You finished? You want to share your screen to me? Jesse. Kaden. Do you want to share your screen to me, Kaden? Okay. So Jesse, do you want to share it to me? Jesse, are you there? Okay, I'm not sure if Jesse is still there or not. I do not get any response from Jesse. Okay, all right. So let me move on then. Okay, so we know that a loop will loop for a lot of times if you have a lot of items. But sometimes, so how can I stop a loop? You see, if I have a class of 100 students, but I only look for Tom. So if I go to my roster and I pull the students out one by one, and if I say Tom, I do not want to go on. I'm good enough. So in that situation, how will we do? So we need a way to break a loop, right? To break a loop. So how do we do that? So in Java, it uses a keyword break. Okay, you use break will break out a loop, and the loop will jump out. It will not execute the loop anymore. It will stop at that moment, jump out, and go to execute the code after the loop. After the loop, okay. If you remember that we used it actually in the switch statement, when you wanted to do conditions, you have the switch window, switch statement. Each switch statement, when you use case, then you do something, then you have a break statement there. So you will break that case and break the switch block as well. So this is an example. So you say you wanted to loop for all the integers that is less than 10, but once you get to 4, you break. And I want you guys to run this example to see if it works for you. So when you run this example, you will see that only 0 to 3 is printed out. 4 is not printed out. Though you see you have this printed statement here, but it is not printed out. So let me run for you. So you see here, because when the system run into the break statement, it will jump out this for loop. It will jump out. Okay. So even you have like a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you still have 6 numbers to go, but it will not move on. It will just break at the statement. So you say you use a condition to control that. So this way, you decide when the loop will be broken. When it will be broken. All right. So the next one we're going to learn is another statement. It's called a continue. Same situation, but a different use case. So if I have 100 students, I do not care what Tom is doing. So I will go into this loop. I will pull out a student and do something to the students. Let's say I wanted to give an award to all the students but Tom. Okay. So I pull one student, give an award. But when I pull out his Tom, then I will continue. So continue, it will break the loop, the current iteration. It will break it. It will not do the rest of the code in that loop block. It will jump out but it will continue to the next iteration. So that means Tom will not get the award. Even it's in the loop. But if I have a condition, say, if name equal to Tom, continue. But if the name is not equal to Tom, then I will say, send a gift card to that student. So if it's Tom, then you continue. Then Tom will not. Okay, it will not. So let's do an example as well. So this is an example. You say if I equal to 4, we'll continue. Okay. So in this case, you see if 4 will be printed out or not. So let me give you this example. I want you to try it. I think you guys are old enough. I can actually move a little bit fast. I do not have to go this detail, but if you want me to go into it more, I can. So I can explain to you more, okay? And let me just run this code. You will see I do have a continue here, but, okay, 4 will not be printed out. 5 will be. You see here, you see 2 start, right? 3, 5, but 4 is not printed out because it runs into this statement continue, so it will ignore all the code after continue in this block for this iteration. That means the code here. Okay, what will happen if I take this one out? If I take this one out, what will happen? Take a guess, Trisha, what will happen?
It'll stop adding to I. Like, will it stay at 0? Will it just keep printing 0? Just like start 0?
Okay, so I want you guys to try. You have my code. You comment out that line and it's show me and or tell me what happens to you.
It's a forever start. It just keeps saying start over and over again.
Why?
Oh, because there's no end to loop, because I doesn't it doesn't get bigger than 10, so it'll just keep printing start.
Very good. If you take this one out, because the continue, right? So when I equal to 4, you never get a chance to increase I. So I will stay at the value 4 because the continue will force the system to continue to the next iteration. Next iteration I is still 4 because no code change as value here. So keep going. All right. So it becomes an infinite loop. That's very bad. Okay. So when you use continue, be very careful. Be very careful. Okay. Makes sense to you guys?
Yeah.
I think this should be a too simple question. I still wanted to check you guys, see if you understand or not. So what's the difference between break and continue? What's the difference? Do I get any volunteer?
Break stops the loop, but continue just skips over.
Yeah, I raised my hand.
Very good. Okay. All right, so this is just a little bit more about the loop, and you see Java give you the ability to control the flow and the break as you need it. So let me just explain to you why we have this. You see, when you do loop, right, you have this name here. This starts as a name and have the colon. Make sure this has to be put right before the start of the loop. So you see this while loop, you have AA here, and then you have this for loop, and you have BB here. Of course, you can use a different name. Use a different name, but you see this break AA. That means if I equal to 2, J equal to 2, it will not do this loop. It is not only just jump out of this loop, it will actually also jump out of that loop. Because you try to break AA, that is this loop. That is this loop. Okay? Then some students will say, okay, can I break, if I can do something here, put something here, and I try to break the BB loop. That's not necessary because it's an inner loop. It's this loop is inside it. When you run into this break statement, the inner loop has already finished there, or that loop has not started. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to break in the inner loop using this kind of notation. You do not have to. This usually you use it to break an outer loop because you are in the inner loop. Make sense to you guys? Make sense to you guys? I wanted to give you the code to you guys. You can run it. I'm not going to run this one. I want you to run it just to get a feel about the loop name. Okay? This is the reason why. Give you 1 minute to try that code. All right. Okay. So this is a short form of loop. So why it is short form? You see, when you do conditions, we say the simplest condition block is that you can omit the braces, right? It's just one statement in the condition body. If you only have one condition in your loop body, you can also omit the braces. So that's look like this. You have the for loop. You do not see a brace here, and a brace is here. You do not see it. So this is the body. Okay. So that's the short form. Should be very straightforward. I think you guys should understand it. Okay. So now I will say I have a list of names. Please sort these names ascending alphabetically using loops, not the sorting method of a collection or array. Then you print the sorted names out. I will give you guys like 5 minutes to think about this one and do it. How do we sort it? if I do not use the sort method. This is very important if you guys wanted to do USIC. So you wanted to do like a USA Computer Olympia. This is the basic step for you guys to understand the different ways to sort an array or a string. Okay. Does anyone have a solution?
I mean, you could assign every letter to the alphabet a number, like 1 through 26, and then see if the numbers are greater than each other.
Yeah. So how do we do that?
I would just do int uh a equals 1 int into the all for all 26 letters.
Okay, let's do it quickly. See if we can get this done. All right. So let me do that with you guys together. String my names equal to I wanted to do it this way, okay? You guys have not done this way yet. Let me do this one. All right. So I get in the area. So now what I need to do. So for enter I equal to 0, I less than my name's or negative, right? And then I plus. All right. So what should I do? After this, what should I do? So I'm loop through it, right? So I will do it this way. So I'm doing another loop here. That I'm going to change this to J. J. So J will start from 1. Okay. So this will be -1. So I will take the first item from this area. I will compare to the second one. And then I will compare to the third one, right? So I needed to create another string variable. I will just say temp, right? So temp will always equal to my names J here. So I use it to hold the J. So now if my names I alphabetically, right? So it's ascending. So if it's larger than my names J, what I'm going to do is that I want to swap. I want to swap these two, right? So I will use my names J will equal to my names I, right? Then now my names I will equal to temp. Okay, let me see this one. My names I, that is a string. This compared. Okay. So if this one is larger than it, then I will swap it. If not, I'm not going to swap. So this way you will pull every item out from this area. And then you compare. Now let's print it out. So now my name should be in sorted area, right? Let's just do that. So the string my, and then my names. Okay. So what I'm going to do, actually I can just do in a simple short form one, system out print then my. Okay. All right, let me save the code and run it, see if it's ascending or not. Did I have anything here? Oh, I should not do this. I should use I plus 1. Sorry about that. So it's always use the next one. I should do it this way. Sorry, I think because of this space here, that's why we got all these problems now. Let me run this one. Without the space now should be correct. So this you say you use a loop to sort the string. So let me give you this code. All right, that's all I have for today. Do you guys have any question for this solution here? You are using an nested loop, so you can sort it. You sort these names. This actually is this method or doing it this way. It has a very famous name. It is called a bubble sorting. So bubble sorting, you use put one from this one, you compare. If this one is larger, okay, then you just like in the bubble, you floating to the top, float to the top, just like a bubble. So it's called a bubble sorting. So you use it to compare one by one. Once this one that is larger than you, once you get one that is larger than you, you bubble it up. Or if it's less than you, you bubble it up. So depends on how you want to sort it. It's ascending or descending. All right, so let me stop sharing. Any question from the class? You guys are so quiet. Dio, any question? Hello, Dio.